The book and the film, The Reluctant Fundamentalist, overview the experiences of a man, Changes, during his time in America and how that ultimately changed his life and his outlook on life. For the most part, the book and the movie are quite similar. They cover the same plot and the same time frame. However, in places where the book favors understatement, the movie can be too obvious, but it doesn't really work towards the movie's detriment. So, for example, I'm just going to cover the interview scene mostly for the just comparing the movie and the book. So the interview for Changes was with this really high up company that he was very, very excited for, and I felt like it was really like a turning point in the book, both for Changes and also for the plot of the book and the movie. So in both of the book and the movie, the interviewer Jim questions whether Changes has financial aid to attend Princeton, and this kind of struck a uncomfortable feeling with him. He was like kind of uncomfortable talking about it. So yeah, Changes says he was on financial aid, and then Jim comes back questioning if it's really difficult to get into Princeton on financial aid. And Changes was once again uncomfortable, but he said yes. So this is kind of where it breaks apart. So in the movie, the scene just cuts to Changes outside celebrating, kind of leaving the viewer to expect that he got the job. However, in the book, Jim connects with Changes and expresses that he was in the same exact situation. And so going back to the movie, this situation doesn't come up until 40 minutes into the movie. And I felt like when Jim kind of connected with Changes, so yes, it happens in both the book and the movie, but because it happened later in the movie, I felt like it really capitalized on that relationship and allowed the viewer to kind of develop a relationship with the characters before something like so developmental in their relationship happened. Also, moving forward, another part of the interview scene was that Jim gave Changes a fake scenario to kind of evaluate, or a fake company to evaluate. And so within the book, this happened during the interview, right after the financial aid situation. And the book, Changes overestimated the company, and it was just way too much. And then Jim kind of explains that was way too much, but you're going to learn how to do this better, because this role, you'll gain a lot of experience with this role. In the movie, this happened a lot later, and it actually kind of looked like it was his first day on the job, and Changes was in a big meeting room, and Jim gave this situation to a big group of people, and Changes actually evaluated the company correctly and basically gave the same explanation that Jim gave in the book for the reason of his correct evaluation. So this was just interesting because, once again, it capitalized on the relationship of Changes and Jim, but I felt like it was a really crucial part in the movie for it to be later in the movie because, once again, the viewer was able to kind of develop a relationship before something like this in the relationship of Changes and Jim happened. And then another example of the understatement in the book and then over-obvious in the movie is that the role of the American. So the American in the book just stayed as the American. He never spoke. We only really know his reaction to things because Changes paraphrased his responses. So for example, when they were ordering tea, Changes was like, "Oh, I really like the green tea as well. I'll order that too." So that's really kind of how we know what the American said. But in the movie, right off the bat, his name's Bobby, I believe, and he's a CIA agent right off the bat. We kind of have a relationship with him as a viewer. We were able to get to know him. So I feel like that was just another way that the movie kind of made it a little bit over obvious, but I think it helped in the fact that as a viewer, I was able to build a relationship with him, and then I was also kind of, as a viewer, I felt like it was easier to understand that relationship between the CIA agent and then Changes. And then lastly, the background music kind of helped, or I think it helped with being over obvious for the movie because in some parts the background music was very, very, very obvious with what was going on. So for example, when Changes was leaving his after he quit his job, he's packing up his stuff, he's walking out of the office, and the background music says, "I don't want this kingdom." And so you just know right there that Changes is just done. He's done with this American dream. And that was like a really over obvious part of the movie that kind of lacked in the book because it is impossible to have background music within the book. So overall, I feel like the movie was over obvious, but it gave it strength in places where the book lacked. And I felt like this really helped me develop relationships as a viewer instead of a reader. So I think the over obvious part really helped the movie kind of connect more with me.